released. 4 more women have accused Roy Moore, the Republican senatorial candidate in Alabama, of sexual misconduct, bringing the total to 9. 9. Yesterday, there was a strange news conference by his lawyers. Some thought he was going to drop out of the race. Nope. They double down, now demanding the actual yearbook from one of the women who says he signed her yearbook. Not only that, 2 women say they were in their teens when Roy Moore tried to date them. One of them even claims that he came to her school, went to the principal's office to ask her out on a date. Another woman said she declined to give Moore her number twice, but he was not deterred. What in the world is going on in Alabama? Not only that, Roy Moore then tweets to Senator Mitch McConnell, "Bring it on." Okay, that also was the name of a movie about high school cheerleaders. Not wise. Not wise.
That actually is true.
Let's go to Alabama. Reporter Roy Johnson, he is with AL.com. He has been, of course, covering all of this. He joins us via Skype. He is the columnist and content executive with the Alabama Media Group, also on FaceTime in Birmingham. Cheryl Stewart, a reporter with WBHM 90.3 FM. Cheryl, you were at this news conference yesterday. Again, some folks thought Roy Moore, with all the pressure, was going to drop out. The National Republican Party, they have pulled out of his race. The Republican Senatorial Election Committee, they have stopped funding his race. They even dropped a poll showing he's down 6 points to Doug Jones, the Democratic senatorial candidate. Many believe that is not the case. Explain that news conference you were at yesterday with Roy Moore's lawyers.
Roland, there were people there from all over the country, of course, news outlets. We started hearing very early on at the gathering that Roy Moore would not be there, but it instead would be his campaign chairman, Bill Armistead, and his lawyer, Philip Jaregi. So they basically gave statements. They did not accept any questions from the press after sharing the information with us.
In fact, I want to play, so guys, pull the audio up of that. So I want to play some of this news conference. Again, it was very strange. When his lawyer finished, he just turned on his heels and walked off. So check this out.
Really, the only piece of evidence they had in addition to the allegations was a yearbook where they claimed that it had been signed. And they said very specifically, look back at what they said. Everything on that page they said was written by Judge Moore. Now, Judge Moore not only has denied everything she said before, but now flatly denies that. And he says it's not true. We have a handwriting expert, pardon me, that's looking at those. But here's the problem. A handwriting expert can't look at a copy on the internet, right? They've got to look at an original. So right now, Trent Garman, our attorney, has sent a letter, or is sending a letter to Gloria Allred demanding that the yearbook be released. We'll send it to a neutral custodian who'll keep chain of custody, and our professional expert will examine it, and we'll find out, is it genuine or is it a fraud?
I have no words for that. Roy Johnson, your assessment of what's going on here. I keep telling people Roy Moore is not going to drop out.
Yeah, it's interesting that you said many people thought he might drop out. Anyone who knows Roy Moore, anyone who has been following this campaign would have never believed that he would drop out. He is circling the wagons around his horse, the one he uses during his campaign. Those that believe in him believe even stronger that you outsiders are not going to come down here and tell us what to do and force Roy Moore out of the race. The leaders in the Republican Party won't be able to do that. And so he's going to be here until December 12th. It's going to be a long and entertaining month. But Roy Moore is not going anywhere.
Cheryl, I keep saying this is a guy who somehow sees himself as this Christian warrior, somebody who is fighting everyone. He's beaten back the establishment before. And you have white conservative evangelicals who are not abandoning him.
That's correct. I was in Etowah County earlier this week, and I talked with several people who are still very much behind him. They say that he is being attacked by the enemy, and the enemy the evil of this world does not want to see Christians in public office. So that's why he's coming under attack at this time. That's at least that is what I was told by several evangelicals or people who told me they were born again Christians.
And Roy, when you look at that, when you look at the data, when you look at national evangelicals, very few have said anything about this. They view Roy Moore as their champion, and they also are looking at the fact that if he loses, Republican, their majority shrinks by 51-49 in the U.S. Senate. They want that to maintain that. Well, they want to maintain that power.
Well, you talk about a couple of different things there, Roland. One, yes, the evangelicals are doubling down. Some of them are beginning to question whether he is someone that they can support because of these latest stories and these allegations. Some Baptists, maybe not the staunch evangelicals, but many Southern Baptists now are starting to back away from him, at least challenging him to focus on alleging, coming against and disparaging and contradicting these charges, which he has not done. And the other thing is, yes, there is a very, very, very slim margin for error for Republicans in Congress. That is really the focus of this race. That is why the Republicans, the national Republicans, are in a bind. That is why the governor is in a bind. This is about them maintaining an edge in Congress. And while they know that Roy Moore will not be a good representative for the party, they can't totally abandon him because they risk losing that slim margin in Congress.
Shirley, I talked to Doug Jones on Monday on this show and on Tom Jonah Morning Show, and he made it clear they're staying away from this. Frankly, why intervene when all the Republicans are talking about it? Assess his campaign. Is he actually drawing a black support? Is he actually putting folks on the ground? How is he taking advantage of this race and trying to still focus it about the issues, or is he pretty much out of this thing and it's just a matter of how people feel about Roy Moore?
Well, first of all, Doug Jones has a history in the black community. He is the prosecutor who brought Bobby Frank Cherry and Tommy Blanton to trial and gained convictions. He is not really talking about that a lot on the trail, but instead he is getting out into the community. He has his boots on the ground. He really does. In Alabama, like in many states, the largest portion of the voting population votes Democrat. So, they know that it's very important for African American voters to turn out on December 12th. And so, I'm seeing increased efforts to do that.
Roy, I want to ask you this question here. Again, as I said earlier, the Republican Senatorial Committee, they released a poll showing Doug Jones up. Pull the poll up, please. 51% for Jones, 39% for Roy Moore. Here's why I don't believe this poll. First of all, it's a 12-point lead in Alabama. No Democrat has even gotten close to that kind of number in a statewide race. Second of all, they haven't released who did the poll. I'm just saying. I think this is about putting pressure on Roy Moore. But the bottom line is, it is still extremely, extremely close. And so, your thoughts on Doug Jones? Can he drive an increased turnout among black voters, pick up 20-25% of white voters, because he needs those kind of numbers to actually beat Roy Moore?
Absolutely. Doug Jones has been a long shot from the beginning, but also from the beginning, at least I personally felt as if this was an opportunity for him because of Roy Moore's, just some of his stances, even before these allegations, his stances on gay marriage, his stance on race, his stance on a lot of things that will have a negative impact on Alabama if he goes to Congress and represents this state. He will not be a great representative and one that will help attract businesses to this state. So I've always felt that this was an opportunity for Doug Jones to perhaps do something that no Democrat has done since the 1990s. And you're absolutely right. He has to win a large majority of African Americans, and African Americans have to turn out. But also to counter those staunch Roy Moore supporters, he will have to get a significant number of white women. White Republican women. And what we're seeing certainly in Birmingham and in Etowah County too, is you're starting to see a lot of Doug Jones signs in Republican neighborhoods. So it's going to be interesting on December 12th. It's going to be very uncertain in terms of what can happen. I think most of us here believe it'll be either close or that Roy Moore will win. It'll be interesting for Doug Jones, but we may see one of the biggest upsets, what has been called the Mount Rushmore of upsets, if Doug Jones happens to win.
Cheryl Stewart, Roy Johnson, we appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Let's go to our panel. A. Scott Bolden, legal analyst, chairman of the National Bar Association, PAC. Julianne Malveaux, economist and president emerita at Bennett College, host of It's Personal with Dr. J podcast. Pastor Shannon Wright, third vice chairman of the Maryland Republican Party. Shannon, Republican Party is in disarray, trying to figure out what to do with Roy Moore. Frankly, there's nothing they can do other than keep trying to put pressure. This guy is not going to drop out.
He may not drop out, but they need to not support him. I know in Maryland, we actually have a morality clause. If you're accused of or convicted of crimes and things similar to him, you wouldn't have gotten the support to begin with. So to me, it's not even so much of a partisan thing. It's you can't keep your hands to yourself. You need not be representing folks trying to say that this is okay to act this way, because it's not.
But we're talking, Julianne, about Alabama. No, say it.
And that's a really good point, Roland, because obviously this man has been a fool for a long time. But you also, I mean, age of consent, age to marry, lower in Alabama than in other states.
Permission of parents. Permission of parents.
Exactly. So, I mean, you know, Mississippi, Alabama, Louisiana, that little belt is a place where social boards are a little slower than they are in the rest of the world. But having said that, that doesn't really... The fealty that these white people have to him has nothing to do with the fact that he is a predator who can't keep his hands to himself. It has to do with the fact that he basically has drawn a line. He is against marriage equality. We don't even want to talk about his views on civil rights. We don't even want to go there. But hopefully that will drive African Americans in Alabama to come out more than they would. Hopefully that'll drive that. But these allegations are just disgusting. A grown man going, here's what I want to know. What's wrong with the principle? What's wrong with the principle?
But Scott, here's the thing that again, though, there's one thing to have allegations, but another thing to have somebody who can't even give a robust answer to the allegations. Well, you know, I can't recall dating somebody at 14.
Well, I've said before.
Dog,
right. I've said before.
I can when I was 14.
You know, there's a saying in when you're a litigator, lies have no details. You all have heard me say that before. And the details of these women from 30, 40 years ago is substantial. Roy Moore, he can't remember whether he did that or not, but more importantly, he admits what he cannot deny and denies what he cannot admit. He admits that he may have dated young women, essentially, but he denies that he sexually assaulted them. So there are no good answers. Also, Roland, on the press conference by the lawyers, it was a bizarre press conference, because if you think about it, Roy Moore said he didn't know this young woman that he allegedly sexually assaulted, and that he didn't know anything about her, and yet, according to his own people, Judge Moore's people, he was the judge in her divorce case and signed an order. And so they're kind of stepping on his position already, and so it really makes no sense. And also, Gloria Allred, I got some swampland in Florida if they turn over the original of that book, by the way.
Ain't gonna
Not
happen.
All right, y'all.
Weekdays on TV One.
I will never lie to you.
Oh my God.
Roland Martin.
He doesn't want to talk to us. He wants to ignore us.
Uncensored.
Hell no. That ain't gonna cut it, boo.
Unapologetic.
No, that is fundamentally false. You are wrong.
Unfiltered.
He wants an America where we all look alike. He ain't talking about black people.
Unrelenting.
You better go work out, because you got a fight on your hands.
NewsOne Now with Roland Martin. Weekdays at 7 a.m. on TV One.